lightning struck the ground right in front of us, and car alarms were going off, and like there was 30 seconds of time between when we took off from our place and when we got to her place that it was like chaos. All hell just broke loose. April 19th, 2023. Probably one of the best chases that I did not plan to go on in my life. I lived in Norman at the time, and I just stayed home that day. I just didn't see it happening. Looking at everything, it was really conditional. My friends were on the fence about it in our group chat, and I said, you know what, I don't see it, I'm not going to go. But a bunch of my friends chose to go, and I said, you know what, they see something, good for them, I don't think it's going to happen. And that was it. I didn't pay any attention to the weather that day otherwise. It was, like an 85 or 90 degree day. I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt like I am right now. I had stuff to do in terms of homework, and a few hours pass. I'm not thinking anything. It's sunny, it's bright, it's there's not a cloud in the sky, and I'm like, man, I think I made the right call not going today. My bedroom in that house faced the east, so anything that developed to the west I didn't see coming ever. I'd been in my room for maybe an hour and a half, and I started hearing like a rumbling. I took my headphones off and said, "Is that thunder?" And I listened for a minute, and it did it again. It was like, "Oh, that's thunder. There's a thunderstorm out there." And I looked at the radar for the first time that whole day, and there was this classic bean-shaped supercell that was developing a hook on it, and I was like, "Oh man, I screwed up." But it was here. It was on top of my house, basically. So I walked outside and I looked up and I looked around, and I can't see much. There's a house 30 feet in front of mine, so I can't really see around it very well. And it's raining a little bit, and like there's some pea-sized hail starting to fall, and I'm like, I feel like I maybe need to go get a better look at this. And my roommate Rob, him and I kind of walked down the sidewalk to where the street was, where everybody was parked, and we looked down the way, and there was this beautiful mothership, and I'm like, oh my god, we need to go get a better look at this. We had a friend that lived down the street and one street over that was looking at the storm from the front of the neighborhood where there was not nearly as much like impeding the view. And we ran over to her place, and like lightning struck the ground right in front of us, and car alarms were going off, and like there was 30 seconds of time between when we took off from our place and when we got to her place that it was like chaos. All hell just broke loose. And the minute we get there, we pull up and we're talking, and I take a video of it, and we watch this vague wall cloud that had just started to form a funnel right in front of us. And it was like, oh my god, we're going to see a tornado from our backyard. And I chose not to chase that day. I said, nothing's going to happen. Most beautiful storm I'd ever seen. So we run up from where her place is to the very front of the neighborhood, around the fence. And we lived in a gated neighborhood at the time, student housing. And we take a video of this storm as it tries to produce a tornado out on the west side of Norman, and it just doesn't do it. It doesn't do it. And then it starts to recycle. I said, we need to go chase this right now. So all three of us run back from the front of the neighborhood, quarter mile, to the back of the neighborhood. I grab my keys. We all jump in the car, and we take off north after this thing. And we got all the way up to like the Tinker Air Force Base area. We were right next to Lake Stanley Draper, and we're looking as it produces this little weak, not very well defined funnel, but we can see some dust and stuff flying in the air, and we're like, there it is, that's a tornado. And for our friend that lived at the front of the neighborhood, that was her first tornado. So it was cool to be able to experience that with her, because she was really excited about it, and it was super cool. So we're there, and that storm, the tornado lifts after 30 seconds or a minute, and we're trying to stay with it. And I look at my radar, and there's another storm behind it that looks even better. And I said, man, we made a mistake. We got to turn around right now. So I whip the car around, and we're taking off, and this storm, was more powerful than the one we chased at first, and that produced that weak tornado. This was the one that produced the wedge that went through Cole, Oklahoma. And there were a couple of my friends that went out and actually saw that tornado. We were not in the best spot to see it. By the time we got, relatively close to the storm, within a few miles of it, it was the first tornado had already passed over East Highway 9, and it was, occluded. It had dissipated into the rain, and there was nothing left. But there was a new base forming, and there was still this beautiful structure. I don't even know what to describe this structure as, but it was, this awesome. I really don't know what to describe it as. It was just wonderful. Got some really cool pictures of it, and it produced a second brief tornado that I don't think we saw. And we didn't plan any of it. It was right in our backyard. It was like the best chase day I think I had last year was that day. It is just so cool, seeing the structure and all the different lines from it, and the couple of brief tornadoes that it produced. And I guess all this to say, if there's a risk, you might as well go out and try it. Because especially if you live in Oklahoma, if there's a risk and you don't go chase it, it'll probably end up chasing you. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure you take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell button so you're notified every time a video like this comes out. And while you're at it, why don't you check out chasepal.us? That way you're able to connect with us over all social media platforms.